So let's think about this. People think about their hair being dead. Yes, this part of your hair that is long and that you put all your products on, yes, that part is dead. But what is not dead is what is attached to your scalp. And actually, it is extremely alive. There's blood vessels, nerves, lymphatic systems that are going around and around every single hair follicle and energizing them and giving them nutrition. So that's going to be a second part, and we'll talk about how we can do what we need to do to make sure that your root follicle, which is embedded in your scalp, stays healthy. But before that, let's talk about just hair, which is what we're trying to make sure is beautiful and healthy, and how we're supposed to treat it. To do that correctly, we need to look at the anatomy of hair. Now, the hair is made up of three separate, different, distinct layers. I made up a little model over here so I can give you a quick demonstration of understanding. I'm going to turn it sideways. Now, you see this dark layer? If I was going to take a hair shaft and chop it sideways and look at it from the top and look down on it, this is what you'll see. Now, the center part, which is the gray part, is your medulla. The medulla is basically open space, and in thin hair and very fine hair, it's extremely small or even sometimes non-existent. And it's just composed of some cells and some air spaces. The one next to that, next to the gray area, is the green area, and that is the cortex. The cortex is the part where you have pigment granules and you have what imparts the color to your hair. Like dark hair like mine has black pigment, brunettes have brown, reddish, or blondes have blonde pigment granules. So that is what gives your hair the color that you have. And the outermost layer, which is what we see and which is what we always look at and say, oh, it's nice and shiny and it's healthy, or it's not, it's dry and frizzy and it doesn't look healthy, that is your cuticle. Your cuticle is the outermost area on your layer of your hair shaft. Think about this. When you look at it, it does look nice and smooth and shiny like this does, doesn't it? However, you already know probably, but if you don't, let me tell you, that it's made up of millions and millions of little layers and almost like scales. Scales like on a fish. When you look at a fish and you have all the scales on top of the fish, that's exactly how the keratin layer is on top of your hair. So when it's nice and smooth and shiny like this, it feels good. But when I'm going to disturb the areas just a little bit and lift up the cuticle a little bit, here and there, see how it looks? It looks rough and not so smooth. And you hear that? It feels unpleasant too. And when two hairs that have got a few unsmooth, raised cuticle areas come together, they rub and then they get knotted and they get tangled, they look frizzy, they look unhealthy. It doesn't look smooth and shiny anymore. However, while we want our cuticle layer to lay down and nice and flat, there's always small areas of our cuticle layer from time to time here and there that are open just a little bit, where it gives us access to our cortex, which is inside. Now, the cortex also needs to be nourished. You're trying to make sure that your cuticle looks nice and healthy and stays smooth. Yes, but if you don't take care of your cortex and humidify it or moisturize it, that's when you have extremely brittle, dry, very frizzy hair. So what we like to do is ask you to put some hair oil on. When you use the hair oil, these areas in your cuticle that are slightly open, the oil actually penetrates in between these layers, all these different scales that you see here that are lifted up, and it goes in there and it actually gets into your cortex layer. And in here is where it's almost like a sponge-like area. When all of this goes in there, it gets absorbed by this and it swells up a little bit. It gets fatter, it gets more nourishment, it gets healthier, and it kind of helps to kind of push when it kind of gets filled up and gets really filled with all the nutrition. It gets filled up and pushes all these layers down. It gives your hair then not just a smoother, glossier appearance, but guess what? Since you actually nourish the inside of your hair, your cortex, it's actually much more bendable. It's much more comfortable to comb it. It doesn't stay dry, and it's very soft and elastic, and you're able to style your hair and move your hair around without it breaking off on you or looking dry. And that is the whole trick to oiling your hair. So when you oil your hair, these little areas that are standing up on your outer smooth area, which is your cuticle, the oil penetrates, it humidifies, moisturizes, and nourishes your cortex layer. And now your hair is not just healthy looking, but it's truly healthy inside and outside. And that is the trick to it.